This is Tennessee Talks with United States Congressman Tim Burchett.
Hello, I'm Congressman Tim Burchett. Welcome back to another episode of Tennessee Talks. Today I'm joined with my very good friend Randy Massey. I'm actually looking forward to this one, folks. This is going to be a good one. Randy's the owner of Cold Creek Equine in Aqua, Tennessee. Cold Creek Equine specializes in treatments that aid recovery, promotes healing, increase circulation, minimizes inflation, and performance horses. And if something's wrong with it, he can fix it. And he's also, it's not in my notes, but he's an inventor and a businessman, local, and he's a philanthropist. He's known all over the country in the horse world, and I'm partial to him because he's been very good to my little girl. And so that's kind of my, some people have a goal or a standard. That's mine. And Randy, I want to thank you for being with us on Tennessee Talks. It's great to have you on the show. Could you tell our folks how you got into this, and did you grow up with horses all your life?
I did. I've grown up with them, and when I retired from the electrical business, the millwright business, and the metal manufacturing business, and the metal fabrication business.
Now, did you actually retire or just?
No, I retired.
Oh, okay.
I retired. I retired. Anyways, we were having dinner one night with Clinton Anderson, who's a very, very well-known horse trainer, and we'd been to his farm that day, and I saw this unusual contraption that fit in an area that was 18 by 24, and it was a mess and leaked all over the place. And I said, Clinton, what's that? And he said, it's a cold water therapy bath. And he said, after we train these performance horses, we put them in there. It's just like a pro football player. It's an ice bath, and it reduces swelling, and we don't have to inject them as often. And I said, that's the biggest piece of junk I've ever seen. And he said, you think you can build one better? And I went, oh, no question about it. There's no question I can build one better. And he said, I'll bet you dinner with 8 of your friends at Del Frisco's in Fort Worth that you can't. And there it started. Came home, designed the first one on a napkin at Calhoun's in Maryville. And a year later, we're selling them all over the country. Some
of the best inventions done on a napkin. Ferraris were done that way. Art Laffer, a famous economist who consulted President Reagan, he's a friend of mine, and Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, he did something called the Laffer curve, and he did it on a napkin. And it was just a thought, put it down right there, and it was golden. Well, how much time did it take you to perfect it from the napkin to the horses getting in? Because I know you've gone through a couple of
we built
models.
The first one in about 6 months and sent it over to Clinton, and Clinton tore it up. He needed to figure out what was wrong with it, and came back with us and said, here's what needs to be fixed. And we built a second generation. We made some improvements on it, and we put it in an area 8 by 8, and it doesn't leak.
Wow.
And sent it to him, and then he has other trainers come to his facility, and they would say, how do I buy one? So he calls up and says, we need to build some more. So that's how it started. We cut about $35,000 off the price of it, and it doesn't leak, and it fits in an area 8 by 8. And that's how we got started. And now we build them and ship them. Let's see, we've put them in 13 states so far.
Wow.
And now the new industry, the quarter horse racing industry, which we knew nothing about, is now calling saying we want to talk about it. So,
what all you see quarter horses? What other types of horses do you see with this?
The hunter jumpers love them. Right now, the biggest industry after them is the barrel racers, which your daughter is one of them.
And they're always getting banged up, man. I tell you, it's hitting those barrels and just running. It's pretty tough on those horses.
It's very, very tough. And what we're finding, the barrel racers, we just got back from the NFR, and our biggest demand is on them from the barrel racers. Right. The barrel racers their horses are so valuable, and as you said, can get banged up so easy, and they're finding that after they run them and practice them, they stick them in the spa, and they don't have to inject their hocks and get the swelling down.
Do they do this before or after the runs?
After the runs.
After the runs.
After the
okay.
runs.
So it's very similar to professional athletes.
It's exactly like professional football.
Yeah.
You know, they have a full contact practice, and they drop them in an ice bath, and that's what we came up with.
Does it make their the horses last longer, their performance? Do that where you're seeing? I know you're sort of new into the industry, but will the longevity of a horse be increased, do you think?
We haven't been doing it really long enough to have that data yet. I will tell you that my wife has one of the top reined cow horses in the country, and he will be in the Run for the Million and the world's greatest horseman this year at age 11, which is not really heard of.
Right.
And we've been spawning the last 3 years, and the trainer says it's made all the difference in the world.
Well, the trainer would know. That's the ones that are in that horse's heart. What is the difference between? I know that some places have a thing where the horses swim, sort of like a treadmill kind of thing. This is totally different from that?
It's
correct?
Completely different.
They're stationary.
When you do the Aqua float therapy, you put a horse in, you raise the water up,
right,
and get the weight off his feet.
Okay.
And you start him on a treadmill, and you're rehabilitating him.
Yeah.
We're the opposite. We don't want you to be rehabilitating him. We want to stop you from rehabilitating, and we're preventative versus that's rehabilitating a horse to get back into action and et cetera. And we're on the other side of the curve. We don't want your horse hurt, and that's the big difference. Also, they make a standard treadmill that the horse just gets in and walks. We're not really designed for that. We're designed for like your daughter, who's a world champion barrel racer. We're completely different than just getting on a treadmill and getting exercise. After you've worn yourself out, we want to ice you down and get the inflammation and swelling out of your joints.
Okay.
And where it came up years ago, a vet in Montana noticed that when he went on trail rides and his horse came to a river or a creek, his horse would get in it and stand. And
that would be cold water, obviously.
Very, very cold water. And that's when he realized it was good therapy. And they've done tons of study on it. And that's how we've come about. We really never intended for it to be a business.
I understand. Well, it's not in my notes, but everybody knew that I'd be asking you about horses. But I'm also interested in your cattle business. It's you raise a specific type, and the only reason we don't have cows on my property because my little girl, her heart is very big. She would start naming those dadgum cows.
Can't name them.
You can't name them, and it'd be over. She called me the other day, her and her mama, and I was in D.C. and we were on FaceTime, and that's generally they're going to show me a hole in the fence or a dent in the truck or something, and they were in somebody else's truck, and I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Dad, guess where we are?" And I thought, "Uh-oh, something wrong?" And she said, "No." She said, "A lady was giving us 3 dadgum miniature donkeys." And I thought, what in the world? And of course, I came home from D.C. and Isabel had them tied up, and she was washing them and scrubbing them, shampooing them. And these things aren't this big, right? You know how they are. They just eat grass and poop and drink water. And that she was shampooing them. And my wife looked at me and said, those animals are having the best day of their life. And what did she do? Right after she cut them loose, they rolled in the mud. Right?
That's what a horse does.
Yeah. But anyway, so we got 3 more. We got 3 more mouths to feed along with everything else. But I want to ask you about your cattle business real quick. It's a specific kind, and what is it?
It's a Wagyu.
Wagyu.
We chose the Aqua. Wagyu, people will tell you a lot of things about what it means. It means Japanese cow.
Right.
No matter what you hear, Wagyu is a Japanese term meaning Japanese cow.
Okay.
And we raise a version called Aqua, which is Japanese for red Japanese cow.
Okay. Very specific.
15 years ago, I was in Las Vegas and had a friend of mine who ordered steak, and he ordered Wagyu. I've never heard of it, seen it, or anything like that. best piece of best piece of meat I've ever eaten in my whole life.
Right.
And I said, when I retire, I'd like to raise this just for the family.
Sure.
And just, have 3 or 4 and raise them. And
everybody heard about it and said,
well,
hey, Randy.
what happened is when we brought them here, it caught on quick. And we have restaurants, and some of the best restaurants in Miami and et cetera after them. And so it became a business too, which I never meant for it to become a business. It's, you've got to feed them a particular way and take care of them. And now we ship semen and embryos to all over the country, including France.
Right. Well, I heard that you had it. I started looking around, and sure enough, that is the most in demand. And I was in Washington, talked to some folks, and I said, I got a buddy of mine here. They go, Wagyu? Are you? No, it can't be. Not in Tennessee, not in Knoxville, Tennessee, or East Tennessee. And I said, as a matter of fact, they do. And then they checked into it, and sure enough, they came back and said, we sure as heck know about it. And it was interesting because they're some cattle people, of course, mostly Texas and Oklahoma, but they knew it when I said it. They looked at me like, they couldn't believe that little old me knew something about that. That was interesting. But well, that's good. That's good, Randy. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. What drives you every day to get up and go? I mean, you've been successful. You got family. You've got it all. But every day, it seems like when I talk to you, you're in Texas. You're somewhere else. You're doing business somewhere. What drives you? Is it just my dad used to say rocking chairs kill more people in this country than wars have, and I think he was right. I
don't know what drives Tim. First thing I do every morning is I check the obituary, and if I'm not in it, I'm going, hey, it's going to be a good day.
Above ground.
Above ground. But I don't know. I was hoping when I retired I would play with the grandkids, and I don't know. I bought buildings we're rehabbing. We've been to downtown Maryville.
Oh, yeah.
We're rehabbing. We've found people that have a dream, like the lady that's opened J. Danforth in downtown Maryville, Christy Franklin. She had a dream of owning her own shop, and we got her own shop.
Right.
And I don't know what drives me. It's just something either I think you've got it or you've got to get it. But my dad used to say, whatever you think of is what you're going to become. So if you think you're successful, you will become successful. If you think you're not, you won't be.
Yeah.
And that's...
You'll rise to that expectation.
He preached that my entire life.
That's a good philosophy. If you could put that shorter, we ought to put it on a tattoo somewhere. That'd be good. Hey, last thing, everybody gets to ask me a question that they want to. Is there something burning that you'd like to ask me?
Something burning?
Yeah, just people sometimes will go, I really wanted to ask you this question, and they think they're going to get me, and it's something that I've been, let me tell you, everybody was afraid of Washington reporters. Where you need to be afraid of is a kid at a 3rd or 4th grade class when they let them open the floor to asking questions, because they will ask you some pretty deep questions. So you ask me anything you want.
Do you think they'll ever simplify the tax code?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because too many people are compromised in Washington, and you can take that that's for another episode. But I think it provides protection for too many bureaucrats, and they can. I was asked the other day. I think I was on Fox, and they asked me about the swamp, and I said, "Let me correct you. It's not a swamp. It's an open sewer." And the uniparty is what scares me more than anything. The Democrats and the Republicans, the party system, they don't see the color of your skin. All they see is the color of that money, and the corruption is just so blatant, and to me it is anyway. And you see what's going on, and you see good people that make very bad decisions, and they have to live with it for the rest of their lives. So it disgusts me. I like what Lamar Alexander said. To put the tax code on an index card. How much you make, this is what you pay.
Amen.
And then I would I'm not a fan of the bureaucracy and the IRS. We got on the head of the IRS because they all just went home during COVID. You know what? They haven't come back. I mean, it still takes me. I don't know what it would take just a regular citizen, but as a United States Congressman, I can make a request to them. It can take me 6 months to get a response. 6 months, and just the largest union in the country is the Federal Employees Union. And they, until we figure out a way for them to get back to work and hold everybody accountable, it's not going to change. And that disgusts me completely. But I would, if you get a couple ideas on some tax changes, let's present them and let's see who votes against it. All right? I would love to do that.
It's just so hard for small people who we help to start businesses, because I'm done. But I like to help these people start. I've helped them start restaurants.
Sure.
Different. And it's so convoluted that when you get them into it, the first question I always get is, "You've got to be kidding." No, that's the rule. And you just think you could make it. Here's what you make. Here's what you send us. End of story. And I don't know why you can't do that.
Just too many people are dependent on the federal government for a salary, and we've allowed that to happen. We didn't give it to them. I mean, they didn't take it from us. We gave it to them, and we just allowed. And that's why people get mad at me for voting against things supposedly that have good. Our transportation bill, billions of dollars, and about 12% of it dealt with transportation, and the rest was crazy woke programs and stuff that will never, but it's in somebody's district and they needed funding for it, and I think we hit $34 trillion in debt. We take in about $5 trillion a year and we spend about $7, and and we can't keep doing that. That's just bottom line. You couldn't do it as a business, and I can't do it as a household, but that's what they do. And it's disgusting. We need to change it. And that's also what happens when 20 million conservative folks decide to stay home on election day. That's what happens. But anyway, I wanted to end on a better note, Randy. Thanks. Now you brought me down already.
I'm sorry. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, brother. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I'm partial to you because of how you treat my girls. So I appreciate you, and this is just a wonderful facility, and it's great being home in East Tennessee to see something like this. And thank you again for coming today. I'm Congressman Tim Burchett, and thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Tennessee Talks. And as always, thank y'all for sending me here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tennessee Talks. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Keep up with Congressman Burchett by following Rep. Tim Burchett on Twitter and Instagram, and Congressman Tim Burchett on Facebook and YouTube.